They are due on October 16th, 2015, which gives you about a week to apply. If you've already started working on it, then great. If not, you could probably still get a good application together because we've made the application really simple. If you have any questions, my contact information is listed below, and I will also have a slide at the end of my contact information. So, let's see. As a background, this is the first time that OED has offered a grant specifically for propane school buses. And I will explain a little bit below why we decided to do that. But first, I just want to mention that these funds come from both the U.S. Department of Energy and from the state of Indiana. And we chose to focus on propane school buses because we really want to increase Indiana's schools' access to affordable and reliable energy. Propane tends to be cheaper than diesel or gasoline. I know that both diesel and gasoline prices are pretty low right now, but they may not stay like that forever. It could be next year where the prices go up. And so fuel diversification protects schools long-term from fuel price shocks. Also, propane burns more cleanly than diesel, which lowers maintenance costs for the buses, can extend their life, and can reduce children's exposure to harmful emissions. For the funding parameters for the grants, we anticipate awarding about $300,000 total for the propane school bus program. We reserve the right to increase or decrease that, but we are anticipating about $300,000. The max amount per school is $50,000, and we will fund the incremental cost between buying a new propane bus instead of buying a new diesel or a gasoline bus. For example, if you're, and we'll also do a maximum amount of $10,000. So if your incremental cost between a propane bus and a diesel bus is $9,000, OED will fund up to $9,000. If your incremental is $11,000, OED will only fund up to $10,000. And in order to apply, you need to be purchasing a minimum of 2 buses. We do have some scoring criteria for each grant, and once we receive all the grants and score them, we will select those with the highest score. One scoring criteria is the vehicle miles driven annually per bus. We want to make sure that we are funding buses that are going to be used rather frequently. We don't want to fund a bus that is just going to be used on field trips or on game days. So, for example, this is probably a low amount, but let's just say your bus is going to be driven 2,000 miles per year. Similarly, or relatedly, we will also be scoring on diesel gallons or gasoline gallons displaced annually. And to figure that out, let's just say you drive 2,000 miles per year and your diesel equivalent bus would have been 7 miles per gallon. Then you'll just divide 2,000 by 7 miles per gallon to get the amount that you will be displacing annually. If you have any questions about that, feel free to shoot me an email. We will also score based on the level of cost share or match provided by the grantee. And I'll further slide. We will fund between 50 and 100% of incremental costs. We will also fund based on the school's need for this project and how the project will benefit the school. I'll talk about that later as well. We will also fund the school's plan to educate its community and other schools in the area about its experience with the propane buses. And finally, we will score based on the quality and clarity of the application. So for the matching funds, you can apply for 100% of the incremental cost. So if your bus costs, if the incremental cost is $9,000, you can apply for that full $9,000. However, match is encouraged. Extra points will be given to grants that provide some level of match because this allows OED to spread its funds farther. So if you request 75% match instead of 100% match, we will give you extra points. If, however, you just cannot afford to provide any match and you need that 100% match, explain that in your application. The match can be the school corporation's own funding, or it can be funds from another grant. If you are providing match, include a commitment letter in your application. That can be just an attachment in the email, indicating the amount of match per bus divided by the total cost, because that will give us the percent and the source of that match. As far as explaining the benefits to the school, explain why you chose to purchase this propane bus. Why are you trying to do this project? What need will the buses meet? And some example needs could be reduced fuel costs, longer bus life, cleaner emissions, etc. For the education promotion aspect, explain how you will let your community know and other corporations know that you're doing this project and your experience with that. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be really simple, such as putting a banner on your webpage highlighting that you've done this bus project, or putting it in your school newsletter. And to educate other school corporations, if we ask you to speak on a panel about your experience, that would be great if you could say yes. Clean Cities and or the Office of Energy Development might ask you to do a case study on your bus and your experience with that as well. There are some requirements when you submit your application, and I will talk about them in the next few slides. The first one being, please provide bids for your propane school buses. And your bids need to contain information on the bus specification, price, model number, and the vendor contact information. And in addition, provide information on how much the diesel or gasoline equivalent of your bus would have cost. That way we can see the price differential. You also need to provide proof of EPA certification for your bus, and it's essentially proof that the engine of the new propane school bus is EPA certified and it's not going to be emitting harmful emissions. You can download the certification from EPA's website, or you can request that your bus retailer includes it in the bid. I've included the link in this slide, and I'll also post a link on the website later today. Also provide proof that the propane system is installed according to the NFPA 58 guidelines. And you just need to provide a letter from the fuel system installer stating that all applicable propane fuel systems codes for installations are met. LPG stands for propane. Essentially, for the bids, the EPA certification, and the NFPA 58 guidelines, you should be able to get that from the people you're working with to get the buses. Finally, we just need to know that you have access to propane if you receive this grant. And so that can be a letter from your propane dealer, your current propane dealer who's providing the infrastructure, a letter from your school stating that they currently own the propane infrastructure, and you can feel free to send a photo of your fueling station. Or if you are planning on getting propane infrastructure, if you receive the grant, provide a copy of a bid for purchase of lease of that infrastructure, showing the installation date that you would most likely use. As far as timeline for the grants, applications are due October 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Email your main application form and all supporting documents to grants@oed.in.gov. That's grants@oed.in.gov. OED will announce the awards in late October to early November. We will both email you and send a letter in the mail notifying you if you have received or not received the grant. And then we will send a contract to the chosen grantees. Grantees have 3 days to notify OED that they intend to accept the award. If you do not intend to accept the award, we would then move on and fund other people. You can begin working on your projects immediately after you receive your contracts, which means you can order your buses in November. However, note that it takes the state about 45 days to approve a contract. It has to go through 3 different agencies. So if you want to order your buses immediately, know that your contract might not be approved by the state at that time, and you risk not being able to get reimbursed for those costs if your contract's not approved. However, you are public entities, so you should not have tax issues. So I do not foresee your contracts not being approved. If you want to wait for your contract to be approved, that's just going to be a 45-day wait. Finally, invoices are due to OED by April 15th, 2016. And quarterly reports will begin in January. They last 1 year. They're fairly simple to fill out. We just need to know the money spent on the school buses, the fuel savings you're seeing, any price savings that you're seeing, and the educational efforts that you have done. Finally, here's my contact information, and let me know if you have any questions.
Well, thank you, Megan. And this webinar will be posted on the Indiana Office of Energy's website, the Greater Indiana Clean Cities website, and South Shore Clean Cities website. And if you have questions pertaining to any of the information that was presented today, looking for additional information on propane or propane school bus providers, please look at the map that is located on the screen right now. You can contact South Shore Clean Cities in Northern Indiana or Ms. Kellie Walsh in the Greater Indiana Clean Cities Coalition. And with that, we will take some questions.